Hey, friend, welcome back to the Global Leadership Podcast and welcome to Season 9. I'm Whitney Putnam and I am so glad you're here. We just came out of the 2025 Global Leadership Summit and it was incredible. We had a sold out studio audience live stream to over 400 host sites and served more than 70,000 leaders across the US. And the best part, this is just the beginning. In the months ahead, we'll take the summit content global, serving over 365,000 leaders in 100 plus countries. If you are part of GLS 25, I hope you're still carrying that same sense of energy and inspiration with you. And if you weren't able to join us this year, don't worry. We're bringing you some of the best moments right here. I'll be honest with you, this year's summit hit me personally in so many ways. Walker Hayes' vulnerability, it moved me deeply. And yes, I was that person in the aisle dancing when Fancy Light came on in the studio audience. I can never get enough of Jon Acuff's mix of humor and practical advice. His challenge to start now, don't wait, already has me working on some personal goals. And Juliet Funt, her reduction mindset and process gave me such a fresh way to think about my own work. I'm already using it with my team as we debrief. That's why I love the summit. It's not just inspiration, it's action. It's practical tools you can put into practice immediately. And today, before we get too far away from Summit Week, we wanted to sit down with our president and CEO, David Ashcraft. David had a front row seat to the summit, and he's here to share his top moments, his takeaways, and why staying curious and committed to growth is one of the most important choices a leader can make. As always, David has such practical wisdom to share, and I think this episode will give you both encouragement and some next steps for your own leadership. But before we jump in, can I ask a quick favor? If this podcast has encouraged you, would you take a moment to like, rate, and subscribe wherever you're listening? It helps other people find us, and it means so much to our team. All right, let's get into the conversation with David. David, it is great to see you.
Hey, Whitney, it's good to see you and fun to talk after the summit here.
I know, so fun. Welcome back. We just are coming off the Global Leadership Summit 2025, and I am so curious, and I know our listeners and our podcast community are so curious about what were some of your favorite moments from the summit this year?
Well, so first of all, Whitney, let me just say, overall, I thought it was a fantastic summit. And the ratings that we're receiving show that it was one of the highest rated in 31 years. So real fun to see that. And and you didn't ask me what my unfavorite or least favorite moment was, but the least favorite was that we did have some technical issues at some of our host sites. And so we feel so bad about that because the product that was coming out of South Barrington and being broadcast to the sites was just amazing. And so for those of you that experienced difficulties, we apologize and let us know if you haven't heard from us because we're trying to do some things to make it right for you and just some little special features if you struggled with that. But all that said, the summit itself was just, I think, fabulous, Whitney.
Yeah, it was so great. Were there any moments that you're still, I know I am, are there any moments that you're still thinking about, you almost wish you could relive?
Yeah, I'm sure there were lots and lots of moments as I think through it and as you ask specific ones. Everything from, obviously, Craig is just a great speaker. So he kicks us off so well each year for the summit and love what he has to say. Love what he had to say about just doing the boring. And I think he kind of joked at one point, Whitney, where he said people will come up and say, hey, what's new? And he awkwardly just says, well, really nothing. I'm just kind of doing the same old. And I resonated with that so much because people do come up and say, hey, what's new with you? And it's kind of like, I don't know that anything's really new. And there's a lot going on in your life, but none of it's necessarily new. So I love that statement because I resonated deeply with that. So I'll just kind of go beginning to end. I thought Jon Acuff closed out the summit, and he was fantastic. Jon is just full of incredible leadership principles. So I love what he has to say. He says it in a very humorous way. Ruth and I were laughing after the summit, saying he just has a way of pulling out little everyday things that all of us do and makes it funny, and you kind of laugh and go, yeah, we're guilty of that. And so I thought from start to finish, it was just excellent.
Yeah, I totally agree. Back to Craig, David, I would be so curious. I'd love us to pull our audience who started flossing. I've started flossing because of
Have
that
you?
topic. Yes, I really, really, I went to the store and got floss because it had been a minute since I had flossed. But I thought, you know what? It's the small little habits that we do. It's the boring habits.
So for me, I actually, as that talk finished, Ruth and I just kind of put our heads together. For me, it's making the bed, and I have to do that every morning and get started that way. And it'll drive her crazy, Ruth crazy, because sometimes I make it before she wants it made. But yeah, that's kind of my flossing habit. So I understand from that standpoint, but I'm not going to go so far as to start flossing. So.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. And tell me, you had a great interview with Tashonda. Tell us a little bit about that.
So Tashonda Duckett was just amazing. I could have talked to her all day long. She is an incredible leader. I mean, the organization that she leads, I think, is in one of the top 50 in size or at least financial influence in the United States. And so here's somebody, whenever I have opportunity, and I don't often have opportunity to talk to somebody that's listed as one of the 100 most influential people in the world, then it's like, oh my goodness. But she was just very down to earth. She is a person of faith. She focused in both on stage but backstage. She was willing to talk and converse and pay attention to me as I'm talking to her. And I loved her answers. I mean, she's just, for somebody that I think the number was 1.7 trillion dollars her
Oh
organization
my gosh,
manages.
that's a lot of money. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
Yeah.
mind-boggling, and yet she is very down to earth, understands real life. I even think she joked at one point about some of her. I'm trying to remember how she called it, but she said, she needs downtime too. And so I'm pretty sure, if I remember right in the conversation with her, her downtime, she watches HGTV and some of the stuff that all of us do. And so sometimes we idolize people in those positions and think they must never waste a moment in their lives. And yet she says, you know what, I have to have my downtime as well. And a mom and a wife and an auntie, as she called herself, a daughter, and all the different things. So yes, I was thoroughly impressed with her.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love getting to watch you guys interact. And and we saw this go pretty explosive on social media, where she said, I rent my title.
Yes.
But I own my character. And just that phrasing just mattered so, so much. And it was neat to see you lean into that.
Yeah.
That was really neat. Yeah, go ahead.
You know who else I thoroughly enjoyed was Walker Hayes.
Yes.
He was just so much fun to talk to. And I told Ruth after the fact, he's just the kind of person that I'm sure everybody that meets him, you walk away thinking, oh, we're best friends now. And because he just gives you that sense of, man, we just connect. And so whether it was, again, backstage or on the stage as he's talking, and I could have, his interview could have gone on for a couple of hours, and I think would have been enthralling for everybody involved with it. And so I felt like I had to probably cut him short on his answers, and we still went a little bit long, which for those of you that were in locations where that messed up your timing, I apologize. But it just was so amazing to listen to him, and somebody that now is a Christ follower that had not been, and somebody that really had a lot of hardship in his life, and described himself from 13 to 35, I think, describing himself as an alcoholic and struggling. So still today an alcoholic, but struggling with alcohol. I think he's been 10 years, 13 years sober. And so just really, really enjoyed talking to Walker.
Yeah. What was it his vulnerability and transparency, do you think, David, that really connected you to him, and just his availability to tell a story?
I think that, yes, I think he's great at telling stories. So he's very verbal and able to communicate that way. I think he's very present in the moment. So you felt like he was talking directly to you. I wanted to laugh several times because if you know some of his songs, he'll say, hey, in the songs. And even as he's talking, he would finish a sentence and start a new one and say, hey, and kind of go in. And so that seems to be his trademark, or I don't know if he even thinks about it, but just he was just fun to talk to and very talented. And so appreciated him, and very natural on the stage.
Yeah, he really was. And I totally agree. I think people leave knowing him thinking, oh, well, we're absolutely best friends now at this point. And I have to tell you my experience with it. I was working in the room that the marketing team works in, and I heard Fancy Like come on. And I thought, well, is that just on the in the lobby, or is that it? I go running in, and I was the girl in the aisle dancing Fancy Like with everybody. It made me so happy. And I have to tell you a personal story.
Yeah, but wait a minute, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Not everybody was dancing to Fancy
Oh,
Like.
I
I mean,
know.
I
I
was
know who was
standing and
not.
tapping my foot, but I was not dancing, just to
Oh,
make
you
that
were
very clear.
tapping your
So,
foot.
I was tapping my foot.
David.
It might have even had a little bit of sway, but not more
Okay.
than that. So,
Okay. Did Ruth dance? Does Ruth dance or no?
she does, but I
Okay.
don't know that she was in that moment. She might have
Yeah.
been swaying a little bit too.
Well, it was everybody and not you were tapping your foot. And I was the one in the aisle, and I was so happy. I was so happy about it. And I have to tell you this short story, because you just never know how leaders are going to impact people's lives, right? We just never know the one thing that we're going to do. I'm going to tell the story in 1 minute, but it made a world of difference in my family. The song Fancy Like, my dad was a widow for 2 years, and we have talent shows at Christmas time. I don't know. We do.
In
We
your
have talent
family.
shows at Christmas time in my family.
Okay.
My dad is a widow for 2 years. He decides by himself he's going to learn the dance to Fancy Like for
Is
the
that
family
right?
talent show. He learns it, and he does it for us with all the grandkids. I
You know
post
that
it.
he had learned it before
He
he.
learned it. We did not know this was a
So this
surprise.
is a
This was a
surprise. That's
big
fine.
unveiling. I posted to social media just showing my friends, look at my dad. He's so great. He's doing this by himself. He's doing so well in this season that he's in. My mom's best friend's sister sees it and says, gee, he looks like he would be fun. I wonder if I could get to know him even more. And now they're married.
Is that right? Oh, that's cool. That's quite the
Isn't that a
story.
crazy story? So
That's
you
what
never know.
dancing leads to, Whitney. That's why you just have to be careful. That's what I've thought that
Absolutely.
my whole life. You have to be careful with dancing. And
That's
so,
why we have to be careful with dancing. Oh, I like where you took
yeah.
that, David. Okay, well, let's go back to the summit. So now, obviously, we had over 70,000 leaders join us at the
Yeah,
summit.
actually over 80,000 when
Ooh,
you put the
okay.
prisons in there. So,
That's
yeah.
right. That's right. And we get to serve our prison community. So we're at over 80,000 people getting to watch the summit. Why is this so important for leaders to take these 2 days and come together and learn this way? Why have you noticed the summit being so pivotal in your own career, and why do you see it so important for others?
Yeah, and before I answer that, so I talked about entertainers like Walker Hayes and the interview with Tashonda. I also love John Maxwell, just so rich and so much information and knowledge that it was fun hearing him. James Hewitt was one of my favorites. And he has just all the research that he's done and the facts. I was just, as he was up on stage, listening to him, I looked back several times to the back of the room to see, did he have a teleprompter that was telling him all the numbers that he was throwing out? And he didn't. He just knows them off the top of his head. I thought he was excellent. From Stephanie Chung. Really, I don't think there was a weak link in the whole thing. And so thoroughly enjoyed everybody that was speaking. And for those that, if you missed any of the speakers, so we're not even, it's funny, we're not even saying Nick Saban. I thought he was fantastic. I had wondered how personable he would be. Both in private, but also on the platform. And he was just very, very congenial and interesting to listen to, but also just nice. And so that was a lot of fun to see somebody with his stature and his fame and success, and yet still just real down to earth. So anyway, you asked the question, why is it important? Why should people take part either in the summit or just continue learning? And I think probably the biggest danger for any leader, Whitney, is that we stagnate. And all of a sudden, if we quit growing, it's almost like muscles that atrophy, where if you're not gaining strength or if you're not moving forward in your leadership capacities, you're probably going backwards. And so I think it's important, whether it's at conferences like the summit, whether it's listening to podcasts, whether it's reading books, whether it's just studying other organizations, I think it's critical that we keep learning. And things keep changing around us. There's always new information. The situations are different. And so I think the more we can put ourselves in position to learn from others, the better leader we're going to be, which then means the better for our followers or the people that we're leading. And so it's kind of that phrase, everybody wins when the leader gets better. And that's so true. It's not just a cliche statement. It is a very true statement. And I think it's on us. And the thing about it, Whitney, nobody else is going to tell us to keep learning. And nobody else is going to push us to say, you got to keep reading, you got to keep listening, you got to keep observing. It really is on us as the leaders. And so if we don't do it, I think you can kind of go for a while and nobody's going to notice, but at some point it's going to become apparent that, man, wait a minute, you're still talking about things you were talking about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 10 years ago. What new are you learning and what are you picking up? And so, and all of a sudden then we don't have, I think it takes away our opportunity to lead. It takes away the trust of people following us. And it just puts us in a position where we're just not sharp anymore. So I think it's critical to keep learning.
Yeah. Yeah. Self-leadership. It's just even, so I picked up, we have so much great content at the summit, and then we come home with their books and all these different things to learn. And so I have to pace myself because I kind of want to, I'm a maximalist, so I want to do it all. And I think, no, just one. So I started John Acuff's book, All It Takes Is a Goal, I believe is the exact title of it.
So that's his procrastination book?
Yeah. And it's funny because you're talking about learning. So I was sitting in our bedroom this morning reading it. And again, I have to be one chapter at a time, Whitney, and then apply the principles that you're learning rather than just devouring it. But then it was really neat because I had some ahas, right? And I'm at this point in my career, but a little aha light bulb went on for me. And I walked over to my husband's office and sat down with him and was like, hey, this is what just happened because of where I'm at in this book. And that's exactly what you're talking about. I needed that light bulb to come on. So thank you, John Acuff. I needed that light bulb. And it just took 10 minutes for me to sit in my chair and learn something new.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so, I love that.
I'll just put in a plug, Whitney, while we're talking. Next year's summit, again, August. I think it's the 8th and 9th next year, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on the dates. Okay. But the best time to sign up is now. Yes. And prices are best. And so if you think you're coming, I'd go ahead and get signed up now because the prices are better. Plus, it locks in the dates. It's so easy to, funny you mentioned John Acuff's book because it's easy to procrastinate, not put the dates on the calendar, not get the tickets. And then all of a sudden it's like, we're too busy to go. And then all of a sudden you start slipping in your own leadership. So I would encourage people to go ahead, jump in, sign up, and just make it a plan. And for me, even before I was in this role, Whitney, it was just part of my rhythm and part of what I did every year. Looked forward to it. Did it always fit easily in the schedule? No, I had to kind of plan around things that were going on at work or maybe at home, but it never have I regretted. It's always been well worth it.
Yeah. And David, let's end here too on this point, because I think this is really where the summit can really, really come alive. Is you always brought teams.
Yeah.
So can you talk about the value that you experienced as a leader and then as your team, encouraging people to start thinking about bringing their team and locking that in now?
So I think organizations, they accelerate when you do something like the summit as a team. If I do it by myself, then I get excited. I go back to the office the next week and I'm telling everybody how wonderful it is. And they just kind of listen and go, yeah, and figure that in a couple of weeks, whatever I learned, it's going to wear off. And so just kind of pacify him by saying, yeah, that's wonderful, and then just move on. If you go as a team, then all of a sudden you come back as a group excited. You've heard the same language. And so it gives a common language that you've heard. It gives common goals, where it always helped us as a team. And so we would have our whole staff, so 300 people go. And it never was a choice. I'm always fascinated when leaders will say, well, I kind of gave our people a choice. It said, if you want to go, then you ought to go. And never was a choice. We just said, you're going. Everybody's going. And so then as we would talk together as a team, it just accelerated that conversation because they understood the concept. They heard the phrases that they heard at the summit, and they heard the speakers. And so it just moved us forward so much faster. So I guess it all depends on what speed you want to move forward in your organization. If it's all about you and you just want to grow, then the summit's great to do individually. But if you want your organization to grow, then you get the rest of your team to move forward. And I just looked at it. It's not the end all of your leadership development in your organization, but it is a centerpiece because it inspires, it helps individuals on your team recognize they've got more ability and more influence than they thought they did, and it just ignites and takes off. So it's very much a catalyst to move you forward and help you grow as an organization.
Yeah, absolutely. So there it is. I mean, really and truly, if you want to grow faster and with your team, then it's really saying yes to joining us at the summit.
Yeah, and Whitney, I can't even imagine not doing it with our team.
Yeah.
Then it's just kind of a fun little aside that I do, but it doesn't really impact the organization. So
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I think it's such good wisdom and advice for leaders of teams, but then also for organizations. So David, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for giving us your top moments. And thanks for coming on the pod.
Thanks, Whitney. Appreciate it. Good to see you.
Good to see you. What a gift to hear David's perspective on Summit Week. And listen, here's my encouragement for you. Don't let Summit just be a mountaintop moment. Take one insight you heard, whether it was from David or Walker or John or Juliet, and put it into practice this week. Leadership growth happens one small step at a time. And here's something exciting. Now that GLS 25 is wrapped in the US, the content goes international. Over the coming months, leaders in more than 100 countries will experience what you just did. And you can actually be a part of that story. When you give monthly as a Summit champion, you help us gift this content to leaders globally, leaders who are hungry for encouragement and tools to lead right where they are. If you'd like to join, just head to globalleadership.org/give. And you guys, stick with us because season 9 is going to be packed with insights and actionable leadership content from some of the world's top leaders. We're talking CEOs, pastors, creatives, communicators, and more. You won't want to miss it. So don't forget, like, rate, and subscribe to the podcast. It helps others find these conversations and join this movement of growing leaders. Until next time, remember, everyone has influence, so lead where you are.